Hi there, TaffyRue here, and welcome to another exciting episode of Features by TaffyRue, where we get to put the spotlight on young, upcoming artists who are bubbling under. My guest for today is no stranger to TaffyRue content because he is the guy behind the beautiful music when I'm singing or performing. And he has also been the Bring It On talent show accompanist for the past 4 years, and he has played for some amazing singers and helped them shine on stage. So I'm super excited to be talking to this particular young man today because we rarely get to hear the story or yes, basically the story behind the people who help the vocalists shine. Welcome, Dumi.
Thank you so much for having me, Taffy.
It's such a pleasure that we finally get to do this.
Yes.
Obviously, I know you, but the people going to watch this video don't. So maybe you can start by introducing yourself.
All right. My name is Dumi. Yeah, I mean, that's half the
Just Dumi?
Or Dumi or Elijah, that's my first name, actually. And yeah, I've been playing keys for quite some time now. Yeah, it's been a couple of years. Amongst from other instruments, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why music?
Well, first of all, I guess it's because ever since I was a kid, that was like the one thing I would always escape to because I luckily had an instrument growing up.
Okay.
So, you know, whenever I would feel bored, I would just try as much to sound as good as I can on that toy keyboard. You know? So, yeah.
Oh, really?
That's when it all started.
And how old do you think you were when you started?
I think it was must have been around 12. Yeah.
So that's quite a bit ago, right?
Yeah, that's
And how has your journey been from the time that you started? Did you study music or playing keys professionally? Are you still like self-taught? Maybe you can take us on that journey.
All right. Well, I started out self-taught.
Okay.
You know, just by being exposed to that music environment. You then get curious of an instrument that's just been lying there for the whole time. So, like, most of my early stages were like self-taught. You know, I remember the first time I actually picked up a guitar. This is crazy. I'm not sure if you can relate or any other musician can relate. But I literally thought the guitar and the keyboard and like all those melodic instruments were like separate from each other.
Okay.
Like there was a totally different system altogether that governed that. So it literally blew my mind when I found out that the stuff I could play maybe a little bit on keys, I could transfer it to another instrument. And that just started, you know, that's when everything started. And then I went on a spree of just research. And
This is before you started studying music?
Yes.
I see. Okay. So you've taught me something new. So you're saying that what you learn on guitar or what you learn on keys in your case, you can literally transfer it to a different instrument.
Yeah.
What are the similarities and what are you able or what enables you to transfer those things from one instrument to the other?
Well, I always refer back to like the vocals.
Okay.
For me, the vocals are like the guideline for me when it comes to music. Because if I can play a melody like on the keyboard, right? The fact that I know how to sing it, it won't be as hard for me to transfer it to another instrument. So that's kind of like the same concept I would then use, and then, you know, to develop some of these musical ideas, you know. So that's the same system, you know, because if I can sing a melody, I can try play it. I can just try reproduce the sound.
Okay.
So yeah.
Interesting. Because I dabbled in guitar at some point in my life, but I really wanted to learn keys, but I haven't really found a way to transfer. So I'll probably get some lessons from you on doing that.
You can catch me later on that.
Okay, no, that's great. So, how far has your gift or your skill in playing brought you? Like, have you played for any interesting people? How are you using that gift of learning, of teaching music, or of just being musical in your life right now?
Well, when I first started out, it was just about me. It was just about, how far I could go, how much I could learn. And then it got to a point where I was like, it doesn't make sense if I'm only doing this for me, These gifts were given, we're meant to share them as much as we can, because it's God-given at the end of the day.
Definitely.
So with that being said, I kind of dived into the industry like just after music school.
Okay.
That's when everything kind of kick-started. I was in a band in music school. Started, getting gigs here and there, so we were exposed. Because of that, I remember there's a point in time we actually created a band, like me and my friends.
Okay.
Yeah. And we got this, in that year we created the band, we got the opportunity to be on radio.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which radio station?
ZFM.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, we had an acoustic session there with one of the DJs. And then everything kind of, it was just a domino effect from there. We did the carnival, I remember, in that year. That was before lockdown. We also got the opportunity to work with one of Zim's finest, Shasha.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
We got, to work with her. Once that opened, once that door opened, started meeting up different people, time passed, and I came across, there's a time also got the opportunity to work with Takura, got the opportunity to work with K-Chaps.
Wow.
Apart from like a whole lot of people, but these are just a few
Yeah.
names.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been quite an interesting journey, to be honest.
Okay. So how is it working with so you probably have had the opportunity to work with people who are not so well known and people who are well known.
Yeah.
What is it like working with someone who is already making waves in music?
Well, I would say, okay. This is me just, just being a human being. Like the first time you actually meet up with them, you get starstruck. I didn't think that stuff was real, but it actually is.
Okay.
The experience, just getting to know that these people are actually human beings, apart from being this performer on stage or this character that we're so used to, These are actually real people that you can have really deep conversations with, funny conversations with, you can be corny, you can be, serious, so it's actually quite an interesting thing that, just struck me when I started working with these big people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. And then let's contrast that with working with maybe an unknown person who's not that big in the music industry. What is it like working with those type of people?
Well, the one thing I admire the most is the work ethic. I'm not saying Gucci, these people have a bad work ethic, but it's also the level of, consistency and push, because I notice a lot of people, once they make so much traction, they tend to relax, But it's the creativity, it's still fresh, it's, yeah.
The hunger is still there.
It's there, exactly.
The passion is still there.
The passion is still there, yeah. That fire is still there, and, exactly. So that's, I guess, the different thing.
Okay.
But I guess with the more mature artists, they've got a level of, I guess you could say, maturity when it comes to maybe how they handle themselves, their business, maybe them around people. They've kind of mastered all of that.
Okay.
So, it's kind of smoother, you know.
All right. So maybe a question that I have for you following from that is, what lessons have you learned what lessons have you taken for yourself from maybe working with different artists, or what lessons have you learned from playing music or playing the keys or playing the different instruments? What lessons have you learned that you have applied to your own life?
Okay, I'll start off with, when I started, playing music, it taught me teamwork apart from everything. I think that's the one big thing that, really impacted me because, you can never really make amazing music by yourself.
True. True. Yes. Okay.
It always has to be like external influence, or input somehow.
Yeah.
Passive or direct. So I guess it's that teamwork and also, just being able to collaborate. That's one thing I've also learned, which is sometimes, even the Bible says two is better than one.
Yeah.
So there are some ideas you can come up with by yourself, but when, in a setting that it's just creative minds, it changes the whole dynamic and the whole output and the whole product itself, I guess, and the whole music experience. And if everyone is tapped in, yeah, basically
Something amazing is
something,
definitely going to
yeah.
come out of that.
Definitely.
Okay, so maybe you mentioned or you talked about collaboration. How important, maybe let's dive deeper into how important do you think collaboration is? And do you have any examples of collaborations that you've seen reap the rewards of going through that process?
Well, I would say the thing with collaboration is, apart from it bringing us together, it allows us to tap into each other's networks, Apart from, okay, I'll get back to that point. But like from artist to artist, it also gives us a sense of unity because I've noticed something about, I'm not sure if it's the same in other countries, but in the Zim music industry, there seems to be gaps, But one thing I admire about other countries is whenever a musician has an event, best believe it's going to be musicians first that purchase the tickets. So,
Okay. Yeah.
apart from the people that we're making the music for, we are supporting each other. And that means a lot, musician to know, Guti, Ningi's also listening to me. I'm also listening to Ningi's music, It gives us that forward movement, Guti, we're together, So, okay, back to, what was that again?
Tapping into other people, into each other's networks.
Exactly. I'll give an example of how, like, most of these concerts have maybe a big artist, especially the ones they're organizing these days. The big artist could be the crowd puller, but because there's maybe featuring artists, they could get also a platform to, get exposed, get to, tap into that big
market.
artist market, So I guess it also is an advantage if we can also collaborate properly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how important do you think music and entertainment is to life?
Oof. I'd say it's deep. From school, from like the perspective of school, I got to the point where, just by learning, you can get to a point where you can actually be a doctor, you can prescribe music.
Hey, okay. Please dive into that. What do you mean by prescribing
Like,
music?
that's how deep it can get, there's patients that maybe in a psychiatric ward or something, for example, there's a certain music that could maybe spark a certain emotion. And because music is spiritual, that can be also used as a therapeutic tool, without even tapping into or talking about stuff like frequency, because that's also another dimension of its own. So that's how deep it can get. But for me, I guess I personally love this because apart from it being therapeutic, I don't know, it's just my escape. It's just so calming,
Yeah. Definitely, because I know some artists who have said that, music has helped them come out of depression. Music has helped them stay away from things that could otherwise harm them. But back to what you said just a little bit ago, you talked about music being spiritual.
Yeah.
Why do you say that? Or what makes you say that?
Well, I think for me, okay, personally speaking, I believe once you actually start playing something, whether you like it or not, whether you want to hear it or not, it's gonna make you feel something,
Okay.
I'll give you a good example. Imagine in a combi, right? We're on our way to town, and you're probably, in a good mood, and there's a whole lot of people, but the driver is just playing, I don't know, some sad music because he's going through some some depression or some heartbreak.
Yeah.
And passively, it will impact you. It might, that song might get stuck in your head the whole day.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like the impact. And you could always refer back to that emotion based off of that experience, So that's why I say it's quite spiritual. I mean, even going into church, I believe it's also a portal to God. I mean, I'm a Christian and a firm believer.
Yeah.
And Anzi, in the Bible, he inhabits the praise of his people, So once you actually start singing worship or praise, best believe you're inviting some sort of presence, And in reference to gospel, that means we're inviting God, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. It's more than what it is on the surface. So,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
Like you're talking about how, a song can get stuck on your head. I mean, in your head. I know
Yeah.
when, I go on TikTok, for example, and I'm scrolling through and there's a trend or whatever that's going on, a challenge, and there's a particular song.
Oh, yeah.
Even when I close the app, that song is just playing
Still ringing.
in my head. So definitely music is powerful in that way. And I like the reference that you've mentioned in terms of it being a portal, right, to God, inviting God to be in that presence. And obviously, when you're not inviting God, you're then also inviting a different spirit. But that's a topic for another day.
Yeah.
Yes, but that's powerful.
Yeah.
Okay. What are your dreams in terms of music? What do you think, or what do you want to achieve with music, right? This is something that you do, obviously, for a living now. What are your dreams when it comes to music?
Well, wow. That's a very broad one. Because, excuse me, well, I'd say I've got personal aspirations and goals. And then there's maybe collective. When I say collective, I'm referring maybe to the music industry, like in this country, or maybe a few people, So I've got goals. Okay, so I'm going to talk a bit about my goals.
Yes, please share.
Well, one of my underlying goals was just to become, I guess, to stretch out myself as much as I can, in terms of if it's instruments, I could, try as many as I can and see how best, I can get at them, considering the time. And also just, being able to just pass it on to the next generation and know these guys are going to be custodians not only of the music, but also maybe the culture we're creating for the music industry, So that's one personal one, collective.
Okay, so obviously that then ties into what you are doing with, teaching in schools,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
Teaching
yeah.
music in schools. What experience is that?
It's an interesting one, to be honest. I would say the more I've actually, taught, I've got to realize that those kids or those children are such creative people. And, for me, I didn't get exposed to certain things at a very young age that I wish I did. That could have maybe propelled me, And it's a good thing when they're exposed to, to such things when they're at a very young age, because also their brains are quite active and they can really grasp things fast. So it's interesting when I teach a new concept, and sometimes I deliberately make it hard.
Okay.
So that I can just poke their brains and just test their limits. So just by those tiny experiences, I get to learn a lot from the students themselves. As much as I'm teaching, I'm also learning from them, because I'll just probably sometimes just pose a question. And I can see how broad they're thinking. So it's been actually quite an interesting...
Quite an interesting experience.
Yeah.
Ah, nice. Okay, so maybe as we wrap up, do you have a word of advice to someone who wants to do music, who wants to play keys or try the different instruments? What advice do you have to those upcoming artists? So maybe you can look into that camera and,
Okay.
encourage someone who is probably on the fence about doing music, or who needs that push to get into it.
What I can say is keep pushing. The good thing is, back in the day, we didn't have YouTube. So try as much to use the resources you can, but I cannot stress this enough. If you're learning an instrument, or if it's singing or whatever it is, make sure you invest enough time in your craft and sharpen it before you can present it. The Bible says a man's gift will make room for him before great men. It doesn't mean that gift is substandard. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Just saying.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much, Dumi. I really enjoyed talking to you.
I really enjoyed
I learned a couple of things from our discussion here, and I really do hope that God propels your music and your career beyond what you can imagine. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have learned a thing or two from Dumi, and I hope you're encouraged to pick up an instrument. Use that gift that you have been given by God to impact the world.